Good afternoon and welcome to the fourth and last Women in Biotech event organized by Lithuanian Biotechnology Association. During the last 4 weeks, we met very inspiring women from our sector, from life science biotechnology. And it's been a truly interesting period, which we hope that will continue further as well. However, today we have a very last one, but not the least, event focusing on growing a startup. The idea of women in biotech in generally was driven by focusing on women scientists, students, and entrepreneurs, specifically for the Baltic region, Lithuania, and other countries, to inspire them to build businesses, to create new innovations in the field of biotech. The reality is that more than 50, almost 60% of women in the area are have roles in biotech here. So we have a lot of women working in biotech sector. However, we have very few leaders, women leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs that create companies or innovate, transfer new technologies into practice. So therefore, we're very grateful that we have this opportunity to host this event, to organize this platform, and we are grateful for our partners and sponsors who believed in this idea. And I would like to thank them all and name them. So thank you very much for the Agency for Science, Innovation and Technology, United States Embassy in Vilnius, Enterprise Lithuania, Lithuanian Research Council, Vilnius University Life Science Center, and Thermo Fisher Scientific Baltics. So today our event is focusing on startups, as you can tell by the name. And we will listen to women leaders who are in the front line in growing such business in United States and in Lithuania. Before we start, I want to just indicate one important thing that we have acquired during this organizing this event. Although Women in Biotech is really focusing on encouraging women, however, we think that the Women in Biotech platform is applicable for all genders, because in all this process, we face the same challenges and we all need some inspiration today. So if you know someone who have registered for this, who haven't registered for this event due to this reason, please share. You can find all the recordings of all 4 events in the webpage of Women in Biotech, winb.lt. Really, I encourage to share. So let's start today. We have an inspiring first speaker, Dr. Kiana Aran. Dr. Aran is an assistant professor of medical diagnostics and therapeutics at Kirk Graduate Institute, located in Claremont, California, and also is a visiting assistant professor at the University of California, Berkeley. She is a co-founder of NanoSense Innovations and also a co-founder and a chief scientific officer of Cardea Bio in San Diego, California. Dr. Aran also serves as a drug delivery and medical diagnostics consultant for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So I would like to say welcome and good morning to Kiana. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me today.
I would like to just jump in and start with the first question. You are a researcher at the first, if I dare to say. Could you please share the journey of your research career with our audience?
Sure. I just wanted to ask how much time I have, because I have a presentation which I can walk you guys through my journey, and because I
Oh,
really I
that's
feel like
That's perfect. If you could share the presentation, we can go through that and follow up with the questions.
Sure. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my background because I really think growing a startup start with you as a person and how you grow as a scientist and as a person, especially in my field. So I did my I'm just gonna go to share mode. So I did my undergrad in City University of New York, where I studied electrical engineering, and I was also involved in a lot of research because I wasn't sure if that was my true path. I did not truly enjoy electrical engineering, but I enjoyed programming. I enjoyed working for NASA and NOAA CREST, writing programs for them, and it was a different aspect of electrical engineering. Then I decided to become a doctor, and I started working in biology lab, and then realized that was really not what I wanted to do. Then I started doing summer internship. I did an internship at Cornell University where I studied microfabrication of miniaturized devices. It was there where I realized that really with engineering, I can choose a path that intersects between biology and electronic, and more importantly, engineering. And this is why when I joined Rutgers University to do my engineering and my PhD, I decided to pursue biomedical engineering, where I could combine my engineering expertise with biology and really create a medical solutions, something that was, I think, my true love for wanting to become a doctor, but then that wouldn't offer me that. So I realized that biomedical engineering could offer me that. So I was involved in a lot of research and was designing devices for monitoring inflammation during open heart surgery, was traveling to the hospital, was collaborating with doctors, and really the feeling of being involved in the community where they were doing diagnostic, the needs in medical industry was becoming more and more clear to me, and that I think that was really important. After that, I moved to Hawaii. I moved to Hawaii because because of family reasons, and I was a visiting researcher at the University of Hawaii for a while. I didn't have a job there. I was just, while people were enjoying the beach, I would go knock on the doors and the faculties looking for a research position until I could find a postdoc position or an industry position. And that was a difficult time of my life. So I don't even want to travel back to Hawaii because it was difficult for me to find a job there. So um, after that, I accepted a postdoc position at the University of California, Berkeley. And this is where I truly got exposed to entrepreneurship, combining different sciences, really not being as scared of expressing myself as a scientist, because I really truly believe that science is an art, and it's really fun. And I think at this period of my life, science became not a task, not an education, but a fun part of my life, where I would prefer to gather with my friend and talk about science. I attended Haas Business School, where I started to meet people from business majors, and really truly start to understand, what was the needs in engineering field, or in my field at least, that you needed to bring a product out to the market. So I took some classes there, and um, was winning some awards, and all was fine. And I developed the technology back when I was a postdoc, which I'll talk about it. And actually, my first company, which I failed miserably in, I started it when I was a postdoc, because I felt, okay, business is easy. I'm a scientist. I can start a startup and I can raise money and move my vision forward, which I'll talk about it in a few slides. Um, so I did a postdoc for 4 years. The last year of my postdoc at UC Berkeley, I also got an award for another postdoc at Bach Institute of Aging, where I started really designing devices for aging and how do we monitor aging, and how do we actually make sure that we are utilizing engineering help biologists, understand the aging process better. And it was a really an eye-opening experience for me, because I truly understood that how much engineering can help, not only in like designing tools and devices for diagnostic, but also just like basic tools that could enable other scientists to do better research. So that was a really good experience for me. So since then, since that postdoc, you can actually rarely find me in relevant conferences. I usually go to very non-relevant conferences because I truly want to figure out what are the needs in different fields that my engineering expertise can help. So that was also a very interesting experience for me. And I still continue to do research on aging and designing tools to improve aging in my lab. My career path, I started after my postdoc. I started my faculty position at the Keck Graduate Institute, which is a member of Claremont Colleges in Claremont uh, in California. I still maintain my position as a visiting professor at UC Berkeley because I had extensive collaboration with many faculties in UC Berkeley, and I continue to have those collaboration, and I truly enjoy those, and they will be continuing in future. I consult for Gay Foundation for medical diagnostics, most importantly for designing innovative solution for contraceptive therapies for women in rural places, and I review grants, and those are not continuous. They come in based on what GATE needs, but I truly enjoy that because within those meetings, I get to encounter with many people, scientists from all around the world, and I learn from them. Each of those, consulting meeting, which are usually a group meeting, they are a learning experience for me. I co-founded NanoSense in 2018, and then the journey how NanoSense led me to become a co-founder and CSO of Kadia will follow up. I continue to expand my scientific network by extensive collaboration, because as an engineer, I do not have the expertise to be an expert in every field, but I have empowered myself to not be shy and not to shy away from reaching out for help. So I collaborate with many universities, many scientists, and many people in industry within the US and outside US. And I think really, truly, if I can, name some of my successful technology and where they got, it was not because of me. It was not only because of me and my technology. It was truly because of the collaborative work on many aspects with many people, either they're scientists or non-scientist people who played a role in it. And traveled extensively, gave conferences and presentation, and I'm continuing to present virtually during COVID, and maintain those relationships. It's been actually more busy for us during COVID because you don't have to travel, so you can actually, like today, after this conference, I have to present for Syntigo for World CRISPR Day, so it's going to be a long day for me, but I truly enjoy it. And I wanted to, again, go back to growing a startup, really start with us as a person, and how do we maintain and really remain resilient to a lot of obstacles that are along our way. So I started Elon Therapeutics when I was a postdoc, and it was because I loved the vision of Elon, and I loved how brave he was in just thinking of something and just pursuing it and making it work. Then I miserably failed in Elon Therapeutics, but I did not give up. I started NanoSense while I was a faculty in 2018, and NanoSense later on led me to co-found Kadia with my team members. So Elon Therapeutics, during my postdoc, I developed an ingestible capsule that was designed for vaccination. And basically, instead of injection, you just had a capsule where you hold in your mouth, or where you could swallow for drug delivery. And this was designed for delivery of drugs that were very difficult to deliver orally, and they were mostly injectable. And the technology was sort of simple and innovative and very futuristic. I remember the first few time when I presented the technology, it was not uh, the vision was not captured, and I had a difficulties as a scientist to be able to communicate to some of the non-scientific community what was the advantage of this technology. And that was one of my major shortcomings, which I have been truly working on myself to improve. And I think it's super important that as scientists we really learn to communicate with non-scientific communities. So I started a company on that, and as I said, I miserably failed because I just was learning the entrepreneurship field, and I really, when I was presenting as a scientist mostly, not as a person who could truly see where that technology would go, who were the customers. And I did not build the right team because I thought the technology was so visionary and what was so futuristic and impactful that I didn't need any of those. And that led to a failure because I wasn't able to actually move the technology forward. And I remember sometimes when I was, presenting to VCs, I would get, question that I never thought about. So I would sometimes, and as a good, student, as a good scientist, it's harsh, when you get to a position where you cannot answer questions regarding your own technology. It makes you think that, okay, you're lacking something. And I think that there were points there that I would come out of those meetings crying because it was very, very difficult for me. But that did not stop me not to go and pitch the next time. I kept doing it, and I really gave up after like a year and a half, where I thought I wasn't able to raise money for that specific technology. But immediately after I gave up the licensing option, the technology was licensed by another company, and now it's in preclinical trial for delivery of anti-inflammatory drugs for patients with IBD and Crohn's disease. And I extensively work with that company to develop the next generation of these devices. So that was a difficult experience, but it was a really good experience because a few years later, when I developed my next invention, which was CRISPR chip, basically. And CRISPR chip was basically a transistor that was powered by nature, by biology, by CRISPR. So many of you are familiar with CRISPR. Virginijus is from there, so he's one of the pioneer in CRISPR and one of the first people who really understood the activity of this nuclease enzyme. It was utilized in first in the United States to do some editing, but I truly believe that it initiated from Virginia's lab. But anyways, having said that, that was the first reported electronic system that utilized biology as technology. Sometimes a technology like CRISPR was developed by nature over millions of years. And we're trying to make something that works like this. Of course, it'll take us millions of years to develop something similar, right? So why not take biology and utilize this technology and just try to monitor it? So this was the whole vision behind developing the CRISPR chip. So CRISPR chip is a transistor that uses CRISPR to find the target DNA without amplification. So you basically just introduce your DNA sample, and you allow CRISPR, what it does in nature, in bacteria, to find its target DNA. And then what the chip does is basically just captures when the CRISPR binds to its DNA molecule. So at the time when I started NanoSense, and I knew that it was important to have the right team. So the first step I took before even incorporating, I reached out to people who I knew to see if I could find the right person to work with. And through my collaboration with another company called, at the time they were called Nanomedical Diagnostics, where they were helping me use their chips, basically, because they had these chips which I was trying to fabricate myself, but the fabrication process was very lengthy. Then I realized there is a company down in San Diego that have spent 7-8 years on mass producing these chips. So I started working very extensively with them, and we co-published the paper, CRISPR chip together. And when they realized that I wanted to start a company based on that, they introduced me to Michael Helton, who was a visionary in life science. And we met and we were very aligned in our vision, and we started NanoSense together. And Michael also was one of the first investors in NanoSense. So basically, before we incorporate, I had an investor on the technology, which was pretty cool. And later on, a year and a half later, the two companies, NanoSense and Nanomedical Diagnostics, we decided to merge together and become really something bigger, not just the CRISPR-powered transistor, but basically enable enable people to get access to electronic to understand biology better. So the two companies merged together, they became Kadia Bio, which the mission of Kadia Bio is to really linking up to life. We want to integrate biology with modern electronic, and we want to give access to biologists, clinicians, to a lot of biological data that was not accessible before. So my teams right now, like Brett and Ross, are the two co-founders of Nanomedical Diagnostics, and Michael and I were the co-founders of NanoSense. So when the two teams merged together, we became Kadia Bio. Our team is really a multidisciplinary, complementary team. Each of us bring a set of skills that the other person doesn't have. And we're trying to not only build the company, but build the right culture in the company, also do bring the inform people of the power of modern electronics in biology. So Brett is an expert in nanomaterial, and he's a physicist. Ross is an expert in mass production and scaling up chips, which is very, very important for our application. Michael is a visionary who really understands where the vision of the company needs to go, and he really enables us to actually work on what we want to work. And I run the discovery and innovation lab for Cardia, where we work with partners to develop whatever they need, whatever the application they have on our chip. And I also work on the next generation of devices that could help us understand biology better. Just to brief you, I don't know how many students are here, just to brief you, tell you what I mean when we talk about biology. Today, when you go to a doctor's office or when you go for a DNA test, you're really taking a snapshot of one event at a time. For example, you take a DNA sample, you linearize it, then you chop it off, then you amplify it, then you detect one event. And it's basically a snapshot of biology, and it's not in its native format. It's been chopped up. It's been modified so much before we are able to detect it. But really, our system, our body is system. Biology is systems of system. You have genes that leads to downregulation or upregulation of protein expression. Those proteins have roles in our body. That some become enzymes, some becomes receptors, and many other functions. But they are truly interrelated to each other, and they cannot work independently. In order to understand the underlying pathologies, the underlying events for many of pathologies, and to really truly understand biology, you need to look at these systems together. You cannot say because this gene was mutated, so this protein will become functional or non-functional. You have to test it. You have to see how it impacts those proteins, for example. So what we're doing by designing transistors, so that the picture on the right shows you a schematic of a transistor. We can look at DNAs, we can look at proteins, and because these are transistors, you can have thousands or millions of them on a single chip, and this will enable you to look at multiple different analytes at the same time and feed this large volume of data to computers and allow computers to do those analysis, because as humans, we are not capable of doing such large analysis. We're simply not capable of. So having this large volume of data, you seamlessly transfer this data from modern electronics to computers, and you allow computers to do those analysis for you. And it's a very interdisciplinary research. You need biology, you need chemistry, physics, engineering, and you have to actually bring all those expertise in order to be able to to reach that vision. So that's what Kadia does. And how we work now, we work with a lot of partners. Some partners come to us, they're like, okay, we need to detect this DNA, and we also need to detect this protein. Can you develop a system for us that can detect these too? Or we have some people who are interested in environmental safety, which are interested in monitoring some small molecules, for example. We have some law enforcement partners, which they're interested in also monitoring some small molecules or drug abuse, and many other applications. So we really help our partner. We want to be powered by Kadia. We want to be the chipset manufacturer, which brings these biology-gated transistors, these biology-based transistors, to enable doing a lot of biological assays. And if you ask me about work-life balance, this is my last 2-3 slide, I think. Work-life balance, I think it does not exist, because if you really have the love for your work, you cannot distinguish or you cannot separate the two from each other. You know, I wake up in the morning and I cannot wait to start my day and to start working. Weekends for me, it's like my Sundays, it's reading papers and enjoying science. So it's really, I can't say it is my life, but it's not also work, because I truly enjoy it. But I'm really interested in empowering the next generation of women in STEM, and not that I treat women differently, but you know, I really treat them as equal people. I hire people based on their talent, and you know, one time we took a group picture, and I realized in that lab pictures, I had 16 women and four male, and I never noticed that because I was just interviewing people based on their talents and expertise. But I believe that women are true leaders, and we should empower each other to get to the next level of becoming leaders in STEM. What I do for fun, I travel with my friends, and once a year, this year we weren't able to travel due to COVID, but we travel around the world, mostly in Africa. We built elementary schools, and those elementary schools has to commit to providing 50% of their capacity to females and to girls, and this way will enable you know, females to also get access to education in those rural places. But I truly also enjoy those trips, because I get to meet people from around the world, and I get to meet, you know, people in those rural countries, and really see how powerful women are. You know, my experience in Africa has been really great, because you see them, and women have a different level of power, you know, and it's really great to see that you can empower them more with education. These are some pictures from Senegal and from Malawi. And this is a group picture of my lab at Claremont University. And this is my team at Kadia Bio during COVID, where we're all adhering to social distancing while working. Okay, with that, I want to thank you, and I'd like to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Kiana, so much. That's really inspiring. And I would like to encourage everyone who's listening in the audience to ask questions. You can find a Vevox app. You can read the QR code, and just these questions will be forwarded straight to me, and I could read them out loud. We already have a few of them. So just keep going, because this is an amazing opportunity to ask questions for Kiana, which I was really impressed with your story, actually. And one of the questions that I want to start from is knowing that, if, for instance, in our region, that researchers are really need this type of inspiration, these type of stories that you just told. But it's when you create something, you innovate, you find technologies, you really depend on the team, on the collaboration, which you focused and emphasized a lot. So that's true. However, there are little talks of how you can transfer your research. So you have to have a motivation, you have to have a vision. I'm creating something that will have a life and have a great impact to society, to other people. So how this how would you advise researchers to look at that perspective, and how do you move from just a basic research to more of applicable research on entrepreneurship? Could you just share that?
Sure. I think that also comes from conversation with people. And for me, it came mostly from my conversation with medical doctors and people in the field. Um, by having those conversations, sometimes you realize that there are solutions in engineering that have not been even thought about, but they're super simple. And then you really start to having those discussions, and those discussions will really lead to you to, expanding those discussion beyond the boundaries of your home or your friends, and taking them. For me, it was like that, taking them to university, talking with my PIs, and seeing if they agree if we develop something like that. Um, so finding the true need, I think it's the first step. It's the same thing as um, the lean startup philosophy, that you know you really have to hear the voice of your customers before you develop a product. And I can tell you that, like, even when we developed CRISPR chip, and the CRISPR chip technology was a new generation of technologies that was detecting mutation in genetic diseases. This is what we published, right? But then after talking with customers, we realized that that was not the first product that we could bring. The first product that could be generated from the same technology was CRISPR, was for CRISPR quality control application. So, you know, identifying what would be the first product really comes from your discussions with people, and talking with real customers to see where your technology can fit well. And you had another question, that how do you actually move from basic science to an application? So my field specifically, I was always really interested in applications. And, for example, making transistor for me, although it was my undergrad, research mostly, and my expertise, but I did not enjoy it truly, because I really wanted to take that transistor and test it for something. And this led to my collaboration with Brett and Ross in nanomedical, which then led to creating Kadea. So my suggestion is, don't be afraid. Talk about, if you have an idea, talk about it. See where you can find the good fit applications for it. But always keep in mind that, you know, for us as engineers to really feel the impact of our work, um, you want to find the needs. You want to make sure that when you wake up in the morning, and when you spend hours and hours in the lab, you're truly developing something useful. You don't want to publish it and perish it. And this is something that I really did not like about, unfortunately, many academic institute, where you do a great amount of work, you invent great technologies, you publish them, but you don't take the next step to bring them to a commercial application. And this is what we saw with COVID. We have thousands and millions of sensors being reported on detecting infectious diseases, being point of care diagnosis. Where are they? Where the needs was most obvious for those technologies, we didn't have those in market. So I think it's time for us as scientists to really look to see what we're developing. It's time for high impact journals to not only publish innovation, the most innovative technology, but also publish about technologies that have gone from innovation to an industrial application. And this is like a systematic change that needs to happen, and it's a group of things that needs to change, to bring this awareness to scientists, and encourage them to really, instead of just looking, okay, what is another way of doing something else, instead of that, to see, okay, how can I use technologies that are developed by other scientists, maybe combine them and create some useful technology. So I think it requires a lot of effort, and it's really not a black and white question, because, again, for example, in America, you need to constantly be innovative, and you're awarded more for innovation, rather than, you know being awarded for taking a technology and bringing it to a market for a true need. So it'll take time for us to get there, but I think as an individual, making sure that our work will leave an impact will just lead us towards making sure that the technology that we develop will have an impact.
That's a great point because I think that's a global problem in research and science. The transfer from the labs to the practice is very difficult and complicated, and I think that researchers they would think that I would say that they would close the doors and this is what I do and I'm not an entrepreneur or someone this who can make this innovation move forward. So it stops probably there. This is why I was listening to you talking about collaborations and teams and people you meet that can help and support and give that courage to move forward. And it's very important. And I know that most of our audience are students, and usually when I or my colleagues speak to the students and say do that, do this, and you will meet these people, but I want you to just indicate where a student and what type of activities he can participate in. I know it's a simple question, but I think it's important to hear what type of action they could take to meet these people, to go to find these collaborations.
Thank you for asking this question. So um, something that worked for me, I was born and raised in Iran. So in Iran, we had a lot of limitations. We didn't have access to many resources. So when I came to America, instead of focusing on limitation, I was focusing on the opportunities that were ahead of me. And I didn't take no for an answer. So if I wanted to try something, for example, I wanted to do during my undergrad, I wanted to expose myself to biology. I didn't know if I wanted to become a biologist, but I was interested and to learn to see what do they do in biology lab. So I remember the first few times where I was in biology lab, I used to really, instead of growing cells, I used to contaminate cells. So every time I went to work on in the hood, I remember all the researchers would just remove everything because they did not want me as an engineer to get close because I was famous to bring in contamination. So I remember having a discussion with my PI, and he really asked me to be more careful. And I was the top student in my university, so having those type of conversation was very difficult. But then I would not give up. I would just again go back, and I'm like, give me another chance. I wanna do well because I really wanted to expose myself to those activities. And you learn so much during this, being exposed to different things, and I think it really guides you to where you want to be and what makes you happy. For example, for me, not being shy was very helpful, not taking a no an answer and not like taking it personal if someone did not answer my email or if someone did not respond to my message. I did not take it personal. I would try multiple times before giving up. And I think, for example, my failure in I can honestly say that, and I think a lot of students will encounter this, that you really don't know what do you want to be, like what job would satisfy you the most, right? And you know trying to take opportunities that come along your way, just to expose yourself to different fields, to different areas that you think you might be interested, and then see what combination would work better for you. For me, like when I was a postdoc, when I was trying to start, Elon Therapeutics and raise money, and I was attending meeting, talking with people from industry, I truly enjoyed it. It was difficult, but I really liked it. I liked the startup field, environment. I also like mentoring. I also like discovery. I also like to invent new things, right? So you automatically, when you know what you like, you automatically somehow end up merging your interests into one job. So sometimes people tell me, how can you manage between these jobs? This is exactly what I envisioned. I wanted to be in a startup environment. I wanted to also be a mentor and discover things. And the position I have right now, it's a perfect combination of all of those things. It's not one job, you know, and and some my suggestion for you, for a student, is that do not be shy. If you feel like you like this and you like that and you like other things, that's okay. You know, if you have to spend 5 years of your life just exploring everything, 5 years is nothing in your whole lifetime. It's much better than being stuck in a job that you don't like for 5 years, right? So take those opportunities, especially if you're in a university, volunteer in different lab, you know, get yourself exposed and see like what combination of a STEM field you would like. And this also informs you about, okay, what sort of projects you want to work on during your graduate school. And then it enables you to find a multidisciplinary project which combines a few of the things that you are interested in. So I think that would be very helpful. It was very helpful for me.
Um, yes, that's open opportunities. Be open for anything that can happen, and don't be afraid to have many options in your life that you can narrow down at some point. We have a lot of questions actually from the audience, so I really think for that. And if we are talking about these advices on a personal, emotional point of view, there are questions, many questions asking about mentorship, rather than would you think that the mentors in your life, whether there are any, and if there was, how they influenced and how they support you? I see that you're highly motivated and always been, but there's definitely had to be someone who inspired you and to move forward in specifically in difficult times.
Yeah. So I had many mentors, and each of those mentors, you know, taught me something. So maybe at the time I did not realize it. Maybe I am like many PhD students sometimes complained about giving too much work by my PI. And when I moved to Berkeley, I had three PIs because I was working with three different labs because of the multidisciplinary nature of my work, and each of those PIs had a different style. You know, I had my PI, which I have a very close relationship with all of them, actually, with all three of my PI. So my PI in Iran, he was one of those people who would come up with like very visionary idea, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God, how do I do this? I mean, how is he expecting me to do that? But now we collaborate on many projects, and now I'm sort of like taking some of his methods for my students, which was very hands off, where you actually have a very a vision. He would encourage me to find a solution for a problem, and those solutions were mostly very innovative but not very easy, right? So that taught me to actually go, and instead of like just counting on my PI to help me, really be self-motivated, go study myself, find solution and bring solution to him and discuss those solutions. So I think that's the first step of, you know, being able to really grow as a scientist. You need to not count as others to give you solution. You need to go yourself. You need to train yourself. How do you do research? That was one of the best training I received, versus when I was a PhD. I would really wanted to go to my PI and ask him for solutions, and he was very helpful in that aspect. I had another PI who was extremely hands off. He would just ask me, Kiana, you need a students? What projects you're going to work on? So I was super um, um, I was allowed to work on any project that I wanted to. And then I had Dorian, and we are super close now. And then also Irina. These are my three PIs in UC Berkeley, which each of them gave me a different perspective. And the three of them are super different in their style. And uh, and I think that was a great training for me because there is no one style. And I think for me, for some of my students, I feel like a different mentorship style would work better, and for some other, a different mentorship style would work better. I had a students which I would call in and I would very directly tell them that I don't think they will be, they would enjoy doing research, because after being exposed to them, I would see them like being much better in just like pure engineering, where they given a set of problem that has very direct engineering solutions, and the person can go and do the engineering on them. But I had the students who I could easily see them as leaders, so I would just give them a lot of responsibilities and have them lead teams. So it's really depends on people, and after a while, when you work with different students, you realize what are those students are capable of, and you really try to make sure that they don't create any boundary for themselves, and they take one step beyond their comfort zone, because this is how you grow. And this has been my style. So I had the students where they wanted more mentorship, and I had the students where I actually even trusted them in mentoring students on my behalf. So it's a different mentorship style that we use. But uh, one of my main mentorship thing that I really focus on is ensuring that when I mentor women scientists, I make sure that I really keep them excited about the opportunities that they have, and really try to emphasize on the importance of you know um, just taking their personal wanting important, and not putting everyone else ahead of them. I'm a mother myself. I have a 12 years old son, and it's hard sometimes. It's really difficult to manage between the two. But what I did, I managed to design my fun activities around things that I also enjoyed. So I never put my son unless it was like needed. I really truly enjoyed my time with my son. I never put him ahead of me. I never canceled my classes you know, because my son wanted to go to a birthday party or something. So I did put myself and my career goals as important as my personal and family goals. There are times that you have to balance. Sometimes you have to put more effort on family, more effort on work, but completely ignoring one to satisfying the other one, it won't be a good solution. So this is what I try. This is my main mentorship thing, especially for women, because I want to make sure that they don't give up on their career because of just sometimes the personal obstacle that they may encounter in life.
Yes, I think that it's very important in general that your work is something that you enjoy the most. What is your passion is in any way. I think that we had many women leaders speaking in this 4 events that we had, that they have the passion, and it's easy then to balance. As you mentioned, it's nothing to balance even. It's who we are. We live this way. So I want to jump in a little bit to the money because a lot of questions comes with a question. Okay, so we have an idea, we are motivated to move forward, but it is a difficult process to present the idea that you have, the technology that you have. You mentioned as well in your presentation that it's a very big miscommunication barrier that is between science and investors, and it's difficult to explain your ideas. And you mentioned that you are learning to improve these skills. What advice can you give for the scientists to move forward in that? Because the presentation, the pitch for the investors is the key thing probably to get the funding for your project.
Right. So one of the true thing that I realized that was important. It was, first of all, it's resilience. So usually out of like uh, every 50 to 100 pitch, you may have one successful pitch. It's really because you don't know what is that VC firm wants, what is that angel investors looking for, right? So you really have to spend a lot of time to invest. But as scientists, because our time is so limited, we really we really don't have the time to like go through all of this, right? So this is where bringing partners who can put their main focus on fundraising is very important. So this is something that I was lacking because I did not have the time to just like really prep for those presentations, really look at the background of the people I was presenting to, what they have invested in, what sort of portfolio they had, and really understand like what were their interests, because I simply did not have the time for it. So then finding the right people who can help you and walk you through that process is it's really important. Um, Having said that, it's also the way we communicate science, because um, we need to able to communicate science with a layman differently, with clinician differently, with a person who's purely a biotech person differently, right? Because um, when you're presenting in a scientific community, you have to be really data driven. Like you just talk about data, bars, graph. When you're talking with, like, for example, an angel investor who just is looking for the vision, you really have to be able to transfer to or to communicate your vision. That comes from learning how to speak with and practicing talk about your technology with your friends from different fields, with your family members, with different type of people, and try to polishing the way you communicate science in a way that they understand it. They feel the passion, they get your excitement, they see your vision, right? And this is very difficult, and it needs a lot of practice, but remaining resilient and not giving up on it, I think it's important, because it can come after putting time and practicing it. There are other funding sources that are easier for scientists to get. If you're not looking for like private investors. In the United States, we have NIH and NSF, which you can submit grant. They're a little bit harder to get, but you can really be or write your proposal very similar to scientific proposals. You need some additional information, of course, but those are also available to get funding. And and a lot of people here, my colleagues, they start with their family members, and if they have a really strong vision, they bring their family members in at the beginning to put some seed money and to enable them go to next level. I personally not a fan of that, because that'll bring a next level of a stress for me, and it's a stressful thing. So I don't know how some people do it. I don't recommend that, but yeah. So I think understanding your audience is the first step, and practicing, even from now. Like if you're undergrad, if you're a master's student, if this is really your path, there are classes that you can take. How do you pitch a different type of audience? How do you communicate your science? And how do you not say too much, and how do you not answer all the questions the way you really answer them in a scientific like meeting. You need to learn those, right? And it takes practice, but it's doable. I think if you guys are doing majoring in biotech, you're all smart enough to be able to learn those skills, um, easily. So I think just practice would help in that. And again, do not give up. I think if you truly have a technology that you believe in, because there's two things. You either, if you believe in your technology, you should not give up on it, right? And no matter what, if you fail 100 times, your 101 pitch might be successful. So do not give up on pitching. I think the first reason for entrepreneurs to fail, it's them giving up on their vision. So if you truly believe that your technology can leave an impact and it's important, do not give up on it. So this is what I have. So having said all of those things, I I am I am being honest with you. I myself do not like the process of fundraising. It's a very hectic process. So I do attend a lot of technical due diligence and technical pitch with the CEO and other team members, but I do not enjoy it that much. So I rather just focus on the science and the discovery and making sure that the technology that I bring to the market, I bring to the product, are needed in the market.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important, the right team, working with the team members that can add their own share into the team with different competences and strengths of each person. So you mentioned before your team, so I think that's one of the key things. We are, the time flies very fast talking to you, so I'm really enjoying that. But I would like to have a quick final question, and then I would like to include our Lithuanian representatives to our discussion. My question would be regarding the growing of the company. So you already found investment funds for your technology development, for moving forward to entering the market on different technologies. And you mentioned during your presentation that there are other ideas, new ideas. You merge with and form the Cardea Bio that have even more ideas. How not to get lost through these ideas? What is the advice from your side when the company is already established and it's moving forward? You see all the capabilities that you have. You see so many options that you can do. How not to get lost in that and move forward?
Yeah, really good question. As a chief scientific officer, I am the one who's mostly, we have like nights where we just talk about science, but I have to ensure that the focus of the company remains the focus based on the goals of the company. So we have yearly goals and what we want to achieve, and achieving those, where it's going to take us for the next step development and growth of the company. So for example, I already know, like, for the until end of 2021, what are the focus of my research would be, right? And we are focusing on those, and we're utilizing the team to different team members to actually achieve our milestones and those goals. Having said that, every time our scientists come up with a new idea that is related to what we do, we just don't throw them away, right? We are developing the catalog where we talk about, okay, what is the next generation of devices that we want to develop, when those developments should happen, and what benefit those development could bring in terms of the growth of the company, right? Because when you're growing a company, you have to think about short-term product which will bring revenue. You also have to think about where the company would be in 5 to 10 years from now, and how do you stay competitive in the market, right? So there has to be some innovation element. There has to be some, element that leads to products, and based on those, you design your goals for the year, for 2 years, and you try to remain focused on those things. Because otherwise, one of the things that it could be, it could hurt a startup that is composed of a lot of scientists, is that every time a new idea comes in, people would just shift to the new idea and forget about the previous idea, and this cannot happen in a startup, because then it just leads to a waste of resources. So it's a little bit different than the academic lab from that aspect. But I am lucky because I have the good of the both worlds. So some of the ideas that I really want to develop and I want to work on, I can work on them through my lab in the university, and the other ones, it's really aligned with the goals of the company for the next few years, and where those goals, where those achievements will take us.
Thank you, Kiana, for your answers to all of these questions, and there will be some more to come. But I would like to just introduce and join to this conversation, make it a conversation with Lithuanian representatives. And I would like to introduce Dr. Monika Paule, who is a CEO at a company, Kazaim, and also a founder of EdTech company Pauli Tech. Welcome, Monica. And I would also would like to introduce the third panelist, Laura Korsakova, who is a CEO and a co-founder of a company, Neurostrain. Hello, Laura. So first of all, I will go to Monica and ask her to introduce a little bit about her ideas, her projects, her journey to where she is in the biotech sector, and how all this. Where are you today, and what are the ideas for you today?
Okay, so hello to everyone. So I'm Monica Paudle, and I am a CEO and also a co-founder of biotech company Kazine. And we develop the technology which Kiana has already mentioned, the CRISPR-Cas technology, and do apply it in various industries for the end products of our clients, which vary from agriculture to research tools, diagnostics, and human therapeutics, and also other applications to come. But also being a person very deeply interested and caring about, promoting women in science. I realized that, there is a problem with the interest in STEM education from the very early stage, from small kids to schools education. So I recently founded company WOMEN, which aims at developing a platform for experiencing research and different professions in a real environment based on augmented reality. So it's more like a very interdisciplinary product, which will allow to attract more kids to STEM disciplines from all around the world, really to be accessible for not only developed countries, but the developing ones also. But when I listened to Kiana, I realized that there is, to some extent, a similar profile person, which allows me to feel much better because I'm also involved in academic life, being an associated professor in teaching innovations and marketing, and also a person quite involved into various associations and similar roles.
Thank you, Monica. Probably the audience is very well familiar with you and your achievements and your participation. And I want to ask Laura to introduce herself a little bit more because she's probably a fresher face in the sector. Could you tell your story, your journey, and about the company Neurostrain?
So good afternoon, everybody. It's really nice being here. I'm really proud of this event, and being a member of this community makes me very happy. As Agne already mentioned, we are like new babies here, but talking about the company that I'm a CEO of, Neurostrain is in a very early stage biotechnological company that focuses on research and development of novel therapeutical compounds, which can be found in nature. So in plants or mushrooms. So more specifically, what we're doing is actually by applying metabolic engineering tools, we are teaching recombinant organisms to be specific yeast cells to produce desired target molecule. So I'm sure that many of you have heard of recombinant protein technology. So it's somehow similar. However, instead of producing big proteins, we focus on producing small molecular organic active compounds that, as mentioned before, can be found in plants or mushrooms. So why we are producing these compounds? Actually, because um, they already been proven to have very beneficial effect in various psychological disorders. For example, in major depression disorder, PTSD, anxiety, addictions, and many others. So, so we are not only, developing this technological approach, novel technological approach to produce these molecules, but also we are involved in research on how these substances could be potentially be used forward to make it more, like become medicinal therapeutics for psychiatry patients.
And Laura, I would like to ask you about yourself rather than company as
Yeah.
well. Your background is pharmacology, am I right?
Well, actually, all my life I wanted to be a plastic surgeon because due to the fact because it was so man-dominated field, and I thought it would be so, cool to be a woman in this field. But eventually, somehow it faded out, and somehow I realized that I don't want to be a medical doctor, but I want to be in medical field in biotechnologies or something related to this field. So I studied pharmacy, not because I wanted to become a pharmacist, but I thought that it would give me the right education about pharmacology of drugs and drug interactions, drug and body interactions. So it would give me the broad spectrum of disciplines, biology, pharmacology, anatomy, and etc. That I could just be, more prepared to enter this field, and later on to focus more on some particular discipline. So later on, I did my PhD in oncology field. I studied glioblastoma and different drug interactions in this aggressive brain cancer. And during these study years, I found very involved in complexity of the brain. So for me it went very naturally. I by having these brains and having this pharmacology, then I realized, okay, I should focus more on something that, brains that targets the drugs that targets the brain. So for me, it went very organically. I just found myself really involved and fascinated in neuroscience field since then. So this is how I end up being one of the co-founders and the CEO of this neurostrain company that actually is now involved in psychopharmacology compounds.
Okay, so we have an introduction now. We met all three of our participants today, and I have a question. As all three speakers, they are in a process or have been developed some sort of technologies that that already have been invested in by investors at some point. My question is, for all of you, how could anyone, for instance, a researcher, can evaluate whether the technology is ready for the market? How to to evaluate whether, okay, I invented something or I have an idea, whether it has a market or not. So maybe I will start with Monica. Maybe you could share your insights how to I don't know, evaluate the market for your idea.
Well, I guess if you have invented something really valuable, then it's already a market for that. Just the question is at what point you want to get your investment, because you can get, well, certain investment or licensing of your technology at quite early stage, but then probably you will lose the ownership, or at least the potential of a higher income, and making the business out of your invention in the later stages. But I would say, so if you see that you have a technology, or at least the invention that you are able to patent, and if you get external interest already at that point, it means that you have already something really valuable. And then you just have to evaluate if it's realistic to get the investment based on your knowledge, on the team that you have, on the environment you are in, and to develop it based on the investment further by yourself and your team and startup, or it's better to license it out to, let's say, a bigger company, especially in the pharma field. And I guess this is the way how you can determine, but you can never do that alone. And it's always very good to have help. If you are a researcher, then probably from your technology transfer office, or some innovation office, or any kind of consultant who could really help you to understand the existing market and the potential.
I meet a lot of students or researchers that they have ideas, but if we're looking at the commercialization point and market point, it looks like it's a crooked mirror. So it doesn't, not always, it's easy to evaluate whether there is a market or not. Kiana, what advice would you give for these young researchers they could follow?
Yeah, so I agree with what Monica said, and I think it also depends on your discipline. For example, if you're making a device, even if you develop a device, and even if you show that the device works, and even if you find the right application for it, it's not ready. It's not a device that could potentially be a product, because sometimes in research lab, and we all know that the way we assemble things together to make a working device may not be suitable to scale up, right? And this is a problem that we have in a lot of, at least, diagnostic devices, that we have these fancy systems of complex component that we claim that they will be $1 per system, or whatnot. And then when you truly evaluate the system in terms of how do you scale the system up, then you see it's going to cost hundreds of dollars to develop something like that. So now, is this a valuable system to develop compared to existing technologies, right? So it's a multi-layer question. But in terms of the students, I think if you truly have an idea, talk with experts. And see if there is a true need for that idea that you have. And also, don't be discouraged if you Google it and you see someone else has done it, because maybe someone else has done it, but it's very different. Maybe it's not a scale. Maybe it's not addressing the same question that you are trying to address. Then once that's done, then you really have to find the right team to develop it. And from early on, when you develop it, and if you truly have had this discussion and you're 100% sure that the technology can be useful and can turn to a commercial product, think about how does this invention will turn to a product. How do you design the elements in a way that they can be a scale up? So think about all of those early on, rather than a lot of us, like me, like 5 years ago, I would just put things together. It doesn't matter how complex it is. If I show you a picture of how CRISPR chip looked like when the idea came into my mind, you're like, how would I think that I would develop a multiplex chip that could do that, right? So if I go back and do those type of research, I truly start looking at what are the components that are needed, what is the commercial, who are the customers. And the best thing is that I think there are courses in the United States where they envision a commercial product, and then you go do a survey with different industries, and you tell them, okay, if you had the technology, what would you do with it? Where does this technology will fit you? For example, if when we wanted to do CRISPR chip for quality control, we send survey to hundreds of different companies that asking them, if you had a system like this, where in your processes this system would fit. This system should this be an automated robot system? So even at later stage, you have to identify your customers and where the technology can go. But for first students, I think talking with people who are expert in the field and discussing the idea, doing your own research to see what is there in the market and what sort of problems your technology can solve. That would be the first step.
Thank you, Kiana. Laura, you have, we can say, recently looked at these and practiced looking at the markets of your potential technologies that you are developing and moving forward, and also evaluated risks and confronted them in front of the investors into your project. What could you emphasize? What did you notice regarding your specific activity?
Yeah, so I think I can only echo previous speakers, is that first of all, you need, I mean, if you are creating market for yourself and you are just one of the kind and novel technology, then again, you have to create a market for yourself, an industry for yourself. But if you are, already entering an existing industry and you're just improving the technology somehow, so definitely you have to, look at the market very precisely and to know all your competitors very well. I mean, you have to be the smartest person in the room and know everything. Of course, you will not know everything, but still to know enough to move forward. And again, very important part is to go and to talk with different types of experts, especially with business people, because as Kiana already mentioned, scientists don't know how to communicate their science, and business people often don't understand their language, which I find it very in my place, it was the same. I mean, we have to learn to communicate for business people because they understand very simple language, which is number language. So if you have this data and this validation that supports your novel technology or something that you are, wanting to enter the market with, so it's always about numbers. So don't be afraid to go out there and to talk to different bunch of people, because one of the wrong attitude there is also that people are afraid that somebody is going to leak your information or an idea. I find it really not true, because if you are just sitting there alone discussing only with your head, then it's not going to happen. You have to get out there to talk with different experts and then make decision on your own.
Talking about numbers and monies, there are many options, and as Kiana mentioned as well, in the US regarding national grants or some sort of other funds that you can find other than from VCs or angels. So just to have a very quick overview, for instance, for Monica, because there are a lot of grants you can get within science and innovation agencies and other organizations that are national here. Could you name some of these that you already, for instance, participated, received these grants or programs that are really friendly for startups to look at?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that especially in our field, so we get a very soft support from Enterprise Lithuania, but at the same time, very valuable support, because it's for business development with, all these conferences and international events in the field that we can participate. and also get, this support even from our government, which before COVID was very often participating together and giving much more recognition for us, which is very important, both in US, but especially in Asia. So that's, I guess, a great thing that we have. And of course, we have quite a lot of programs from Agency of Science, Innovation and Technology, and business support agencies. But when you are developing business and starting your business, first of all, what you need, if you already have a product, so you need paying clients. And usually these funds are useful when you are developing, the scope of your products, or enhancing your technology. Then definitely it's very valuable. And we as Kazime definitely used some of them, and now are starting a big experiment project. So I guess that we have quite really good conditions here in Lithuania. However, I see that the problem is with our competitiveness as the industry in general, from coming from Lithuania, in European context and in our Horizon programs, where the competition is so great that it's really sometimes too much efforts to actually try to participate and get engaged in this kind of funding, although there are really a lot of opportunities.
Yes, and thank you for overview, Monica. And I would probably recommend for the audiences, and if anyone is interested in all of this ways of funding of your projects, there are a lot of events. MITA, which is a science agency in Lithuania, definitely are presenting and teaching and have all these programs that will help you learn about various activities. So just follow the information that is on social media, and you will definitely find your answers. For the last question that I want to ask for all three of you, a bit looking to the future. Yes, you personally, each of you, are very strong and independent women, and I wanted to ask for maybe your personal vision for 5 to 10 years, or whatever length you see is more for you fitted. And because from a company's point, there's definitely very clear visions where the company is going and where are you planning to be. But from the personal side, looking not from work perspective, but your personal idea, the vision, where you want to go and be in 5-10 years. So maybe we'll start with Laura. Okay, Laura.
Okay, so yeah, I just found myself very happy in psychopharmacology field. Actually, I switched fields recently. It's been, I think, 6-8 months. So I'm still at the very early stage where it's just, the new beginning for me. I'm very excited and looking to move forward. So I think professionally, I'm gonna stay here with company, developing our milestones that we have for 5 years. But personally, I think I would like to have a children in a 10-year period. So yeah, so this is my personal goal for it. I would say 10 years. I give myself.
That's a very important goal. Thank you so much, Monica. What are your goals and visions?
Well, I usually have too much goals and visions, and at one time, and usually have to choose between them. And my husband is always stopping me by saying, "Stop! It's enough. Relax, and you cannot do everything at once." So actually, I think I'm on the path that I always wanted to be. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, and really not focusing only on one thing. I really enjoy what we do at Kazime and see a lot of opportunities there. So we will definitely will be developing the company, expanding it, and so on. I also have some other entrepreneurial ideas that I want to pursue. Maybe some will happen in 5 years. Some probably will need more time. But at the same time, I enjoy being partially at at academics and teaching students because it's a great inspiration for me, and also at least to some extent continuing my academic career. So I guess that's most of my goals, but also continuing to, be an example for other women and also for children to pursue their careers in science and in scientific deep tech business areas. And also for 5 or 10 years, my goal is to see how my son is growing and how he's choosing his way, now deciding to be something between like astronaut and scientist and actor at once. So, but I mean, he's 6 years old, so still a way to go, and also to give him a lot of inspiration to reach his goals and what he wants to be in his life.
That's a beautiful vision. Thank you. Kiana, what about you?
Yes, I am like Monica. I'm actually very happy in the path I am right now. I do like, to be involved in the company in Kadia until it gets to a stage where we can go IPO, or where I feel that, someone else can come and continue the vision that we have, so I can move on to the next entrepreneurship entrepreneurial idea that I have. But right now, my full focus in on really getting to the visions that I have for where we want to be in Kadia, and remaining, in academia for the discoveries that I wanna be able to do. My main goal for the next 5-10 years is also to learn more about biology, to not stop learning, and I am still fascinated. I feel like there's so many things that I need to learn. So I have given myself a mission that I want to become an expert, and every year I'm going to focus on one thing. This year, my mission and vision is learning more and more about CRISPR enzyme, nucleases, and Cas enzyme, something that is really outside of my realm of experiences and background. And I do think that I want to give myself a PhD after a year. And I want to say that I always tell my students that if you're really interested in a topic, you should just focus on it, study 1 or 2 hours a day, or even 1 hour a day, continuously on that topic. And at the end of that year, you can give yourself a PhD in that topic. So I have a few more PhDs to get in the next 5-10 years. And I look forward to learning more and enjoying the path.
Thank you so much. And it's really science, life science, biotech is a field where there's always something new, always something to learn. And there's so much opportunities to do many, many things and to reach a lot. So I really wish you all free successful upcoming 5 to 10 years for reaching these your goals that you looking to. And I was really inspired today by Kiana. Thank you so much for joining us, and also thank you, Monica and Laura, for your participation and presentation of your experiences. I really hope that we all can meet next year in another Women in Biotech event. Hopefully, let's cross fingers, in Vilnius, live, not through the internet, but maybe live, and we can have a really interesting event and meet all these wonderful women. So with this hope and with the best of luck to everyone who is listening to us and who joined us today and all the other events, we wish you best time, best innovations, best ideas, and don't be afraid to move forward. And see you next year on 2021 in Women in Biotech. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much. This was amazing.